Okay, friends, now we're going to look at questions from the 2017 state biology test. This one's about cladograms. Cladograms show evolutionary relationships among species. Several species of organisms, an incomplete cladogram, and labels representing inherited traits are shown. Place an organism in each of the blank boxes to show relatedness among the organisms. Place the trait labels on the cladogram to show when the trait appeared. Place the trait labels on or near the blue dots on the cladogram. So here's our cladogram, here's our blank boxes, and here's our blue dots. So we have a bug here, and it doesn't seem to have any antennas or wings or segmented bodies. But here's our words: wings, antenna, and segments. So let's go and make our cladogram and show the relatedness between these bugs. Well, we have a bug. This bug doesn't have any antennas. This bug has a whole bunch of legs. But segments are one of the boxes that we have. So this one has a segment. So let's move him over here. And let's put the word segment on this blue dot. So what we're saying here, this bug would go up this path because he doesn't have a segment. This bug has everything that this bug has, and it has segments. Now let's look what else we have. We have antenna. We have a bug with an antenna. Let's move him over here. And let's put the word antenna over here. Again, what are we saying? This bug has the segment and has the antenna, but he doesn't have the wings. So we'll put our ones with the wings right here. And so let's check our cladogram. This one doesn't have any segments, can't go past that box. This one has segments, but doesn't have an antenna, can't go over the antenna box. The ones with the segments and the antenna doesn't have wings, it can't go over the wings box. So this is our cladogram complete, right? This one has antenna, wings, and segments. Okay, students, here's our next question, number 2. Which type of macromolecule stores energy and provides thermal insulation for the body? Well, remember our 4 macromolecules were lipids, proteins, nucleic acids, and carbohydrates. And we said carbohydrates or sugars and provide us with energy. Lipids are fats, and they store energy, and they also provide thermal insulation for the body. Proteins, well, that's what our muscles and our organs are made out of. And nucleic acids are DNA and RNA. Those are the nucleic acids. So this is a pretty easy question. The macromolecules that store energy and provide thermal insulation for the body is the lipid. Question number 3. From an evolutionary perspective, what is the significance of reproductive isolation developing between 2 populations within a species? A. Speciation due to reproductive isolation results in extinction of ancestral species. No. Reproductive isolation gives us speciation, okay? And all speciation is we have created a new species. Let's look at C. Over time, reproductive isolation leads to increasing competition between the population. This is incorrect. Reproductive isolation over time results in speciation, which changes the type of competition from an intraspecies to an interspecies, not the amount of competition between the individual or populations. D. When the size of breeding population decreases, the mutation rate decreases, resulting in greater fitness. This is incorrect. Whether a mutation is favorable or unfavorable determines whether it results in greater fitness, not the mutation rate. B is the correct answer. When 2 populations cannot interbreed, the flow of genetic information between them stop. Therefore, they result in 2 different species. So B is the correct answer. Hello, students. Question number 4. The diagram shows 4 different cells from the same animal. Cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, cell 4. Now, they're all from the same animal. Okay, this is what we think of as a regular cell. This could be a nerve cell, okay? But they're all from the same cell. Keep in mind, when they're coming from the same animal, okay, the DNA sequence in all of those cells are going to be the same. So here's our question. Which statement about the cell is accurate? The 4 cells have identical DNA sequence, and that is the correct answer. It doesn't matter if you come from a hair cell, you come from a blood cell, it doesn't matter. Your DNA is going to be the same if you are the same animal. When you say B, C, cells 3 and 4 have the longest DNA sequence because they have longer shapes, no. The 4 cells are different shapes because they come from different parent organisms, no. Cell 1 and 2 have all the same active genes even though they are from different body systems. Again, if you are DNA, you're coming from the same animal. It doesn't matter what cell you come from, the DNA sequence will be the same. Question number 5. The diagram depicts the process of crossing over which occurs between homologous chromosomes during gamete formation. And remember, this takes place during meiosis, prophase 1 of meiosis 1. Now, homologous chromosomes, let's not forget what those are. So let's say this is dad's chromosome, the pink, and this is mom's chromosome, the gold. And of course, they've duplicated themselves. Okay? And these chromosomes are carrying genes. And crossing over, the homologous chromosomes exchange genetic information. If you look here, we got some of the gold on the pink, and we got some of the pink on the gold. Now, let's see what our questions are asking. What is the result of this process? Let's skip A for right now. The deletion of amino acids and proteins? No. Crossing over is just mixing up the chromosomes, mixing up the genes. Is it an increase in mutations in genetic material? Of course not. Is it the production of gametes that are genetically identical? No. At the end of meiosis, our gametes, the 4 cells created in meiosis, are genetically not the same. The answer is it gives an increase in offspring variation, which is very important when we talk about evolution. So crossing over is an increase in offspring variation. The correct answer is A. Question number 6. A scientist studies a population of lizards to determine whether or not population is evolving. Click on the conditions that would cause the population to be in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. That's part A. Part B, move the correct word or phrase into the blank boxes to describe what occurs when Hardy-Weinberg conditions are met. So let's look at A. Remember, to do Hardy-Weinberg and to determine if our alleles are changing, we have to pretend that our population we're looking at is not evolving. Okay? So let's look at A. We got to put more than one check mark in these boxes. So mating is random. Yes, that's what we want. We don't want any kind of fooling around with the mating. We don't want any kind of artificial selection going on in our population. We want it to remain non-evolving. The lizard population is small. No, remember in Hardy-Weinberg, we want the population to be large. No lizards migrate in or out of the population. That's right, we want our populations to not change. So that's a good answer. A new mutation occurs within the population. That would cause our population to change. We don't want that. Natural selection is not occurring. That's a good thing. We do not want natural selection occurring. Again, because natural selection would change our population. Now, when we look at Hardy-Weinberg, or when we look at evolution, we're not looking at individuals. We're looking at the population. So the allele frequency in a population will remain constant, okay, over time. And that's what we're looking for, okay? When we're talking about Hardy-Weinberg, we want the allele frequencies in our population to remain constant, not change, not evolve. Question number 7. Lake trout is a native species, and the sea lamprey is an invasive species of the Great Lakes. An effective chemical control program was begun on the invasive species in year 30. So here's our chart, and here's the year 30, and here's the populations in thousands of our fish, okay? See our first question. Move the dashed red line and the solid blue line into the key at the bottom of the graph to show which fish species is represented by which color. Well, the invasive species is the sea lamprey. So that would be the one that comes in later, and the lake trout would be the one that was there first. So let's put the proper color into the key, like they ask. So the red dotted line would be the trout, and the solid blue line would be the sea lamprey. That's good. Now let's look at part B. Move the red triangle shape and the blue square onto the graph to predict the fish population at 50 years following the control program. Where after the control program, I would say that the red would start increasing, okay? So the lake trout would start increasing, and the lamprey would be down. It would have gone down. So there's the correct answer. After 50 years, after the chemicals were put in, the lake trout population increased, the sea lamprey population decreased. Number 8. This one is about just reading a graph, okay? The graph shows changes to a population over time. 4 points on the graph are identified by number. Place a graph position labeled in each blank box next to the statement that correctly describes the population change at the point on the graph. Place only one label in each box. You do not need to use all the labels. You may use a label more than once. So, here's our labels over here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's look at the first one. The population is growing at its fastest rate. So what number would that happen at? Well, that's pretty obvious. At 2, it's growing exponentially. So we would put 2 here. Remember, this is the population over going up and down, and going across is a time in years. The environment's carrying capacity declines. Well, here's the carrying capacity, right, where we run out of, start getting limitations on our food and our shelter. And so that would be the carrying capacity. But at 4, that carrying capacity is starting to decline. So we'll put 4 here. And finally, the population first reaches its carrying capacity. Well, there's the carrying capacity. And that's 3. Okay? Not hard. Okay? Just be able to read the graph and use common sense, and you'll do just fine on a question like this.